What happens to your mind when you sleep? Powerful hook, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I want to ask you something strange. Imagine that every single night, for nearly 1/3 of your entire life, you willingly become unconscious, you stop controlling your body, you stop seeing the world, you lose track of time, and yet, when you wake up, you somehow know who you are, your memories are still there, your emotions have changed, sometimes you've solved problems you couldn't solve the night before. How can a brain that appears to switch off wake up smarter than before? What is your mind actually doing while you're asleep? That is one of the greatest scientific mysteries, hiding in the most ordinary part of our lives. Think about this: if I told you there was a machine that repairs itself, sorts billions of memories, creates breathtaking movies that feel completely real, practices new skills, cleans away toxic waste, and prepares itself to perform better tomorrow, you'd probably think I was describing the world's most advanced supercomputer. I'm not. I'm describing your brain every night. While you think nothing important is happening, your brain begins one of the most extraordinary performances in nature. Sleep isn't the opposite of being awake. Sleep is when the brain changes jobs. Tonight, we're going to open the door into that hidden world and answer 3 fascinating questions. First, why does your brain create dreams that feel so real? Second, how does sleep quietly rebuild your memories, emotions, and intelligence? And finally, what really happens if you don't get enough sleep, and why can missing just a few hours slowly change the way you think, feel, and even who you become? Let's begin our journey into the sleeping mind. Now here's something that has fascinated scientists for generations. Every single night, when you close your eyes, something extraordinary begins to happen. Most people think of sleep as a period when the brain simply shuts down. It's an understandable assumption. After all, your body is lying still, your eyes are closed, you aren't responding to the world around you. From the outside, you look completely inactive. But that picture couldn't be more misleading. The moment you fall asleep, your brain doesn't switch off. In many ways, it becomes even more active than when you're awake. Different regions of the brain begin communicating in remarkable ways, creating patterns of electrical activity that scientists can actually observe. It's as if the brain starts working the night shift, taking on tasks that it simply doesn't have time to perform during the busy hours of the day. And one of the most mysterious things it does is something every one of us has experienced: dreaming. Think about the last dream you remember. Maybe you were flying over a city. Maybe you were talking to someone who hasn't been in your life for years. Maybe you found yourself in a place that doesn't even exist. While you were dreaming, none of it felt strange. It felt completely real. Isn't that amazing? Your brain can create an entire universe from nothing. It invents landscapes, people, conversations, sounds, colors, even emotions so convincing that your heart can race, your eyes can fill with tears, or you can wake up laughing. For those few minutes, or sometimes much longer, you accept everything as reality. Now imagine the level of engineering required for that. There is no movie screen. There are no speakers. There are no special effects. Your eyes are closed, yet you see. Your ears hear voices that don't exist. You feel joy, fear, excitement, confusion, and surprise. Who is directing this incredible movie? The answer is your own brain. In fact, your brain is both the filmmaker and the audience at the same time. For centuries, people believed dreams were messages from gods, predictions of the future, or mysterious signs carrying hidden meanings. Ancient civilizations built entire belief systems around dreams, because they couldn't imagine how something so vivid could come from an ordinary human mind. Today, science offers a different explanation. Dreams appear to be the natural result of an incredibly active brain, trying to organize information, process emotions, strengthen memories, and connect ideas in ways that aren't limited by the rules of the waking world. That's why dreams can feel so strange. Your brain isn't trying to tell a perfectly logical story. It's experimenting. It's making unexpected connections between experiences, memories, emotions, and imagination. Think of it like a giant library. Every day you collect thousands of tiny pieces of information: faces you saw, conversations you had, music you heard, problems you tried to solve, emotions you felt, even details you didn't consciously notice. If all of that information were simply thrown into a pile, your mind would become overwhelmed. Instead, while you're asleep, your brain quietly opens thousands of books at once. Some memories are placed on permanent shelves because they're important, others are edited. Some are combined with older memories. Many are simply discarded because they no longer serve a purpose. Dreams may be one of the ways your brain performs this incredible act of organization. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Have you ever struggled with a difficult problem all day, given up, gone to sleep, and then suddenly discovered the answer the next morning? You didn't consciously solve it while sleeping. Your brain kept working without you realizing it. Many artists, scientists, musicians, and inventors have described moments when an answer appeared after a night's sleep. It's almost as though the brain continues exploring possibilities while your conscious mind is resting. During dreams, your imagination isn't restricted by the usual rules of logic. Ideas that would never meet during the day suddenly collide. A memory from childhood might combine with a conversation from yesterday. A fear may blend with a hope. An impossible situation may reveal a surprisingly creative solution. This freedom allows the brain to explore possibilities that waking thought often ignores. Of course, not every dream carries a hidden message. Sometimes dreams are simply the brain's way of weaving together fragments of daily life into stories that make little sense after we wake up. But even those strange dreams remind us of something remarkable. Inside your skull is an organ capable of generating entire realities. Every character, every sound, every mountain, every ocean, every impossible creature, every terrifying nightmare, every beautiful adventure. They all come from the same 3 pounds of tissue that helps you solve math problems, recognize your friends, and remember your name. That realization changes the way we think about dreams. They aren't just random entertainment that happens while we sleep. They're evidence of the incredible creative power hidden inside the human brain. And perhaps the most astonishing part is this. Every night, without asking permission, without charging a fee, without needing any instructions, your brain performs one of the most sophisticated acts in nature. It builds worlds, explores ideas, processes emotions, reorganizes memories, and prepares you for another day, all while you believe that you're doing absolutely nothing. Now let's go even deeper. Because dreaming is only part of the story. If dreams are the movie your brain creates at night, then behind the scenes, there is an entire crew, working tirelessly to keep everything running. Imagine that your brain is the busiest city on Earth. During the day, billions of nerve cells are constantly communicating. Every sight you see, every word you hear, every decision you make, every name you remember, every emotion you feel. It all creates electrical activity inside your brain. Trillions upon trillions of tiny signals race through an unimaginably complex network. It's incredibly busy, but just as every city needs workers who come out after midnight to repair roads, collect garbage, organize files, and prepare everything for the next morning, your brain has its own night shift. And this shift begins the moment you fall asleep. One of the first jobs your sleeping brain performs is deciding what deserves to be remembered. Think about everything you've experienced today. You probably looked at hundreds of faces, read dozens of words, heard conversations, walked through familiar places, checked your phone countless times. Not every single detail deserves to stay with you forever. Imagine if your brain remembered every license plate you've ever seen, every random advertisement, every leaf on every tree, every sound in every crowded room. Your mind would become completely overloaded. Instead, your brain acts like an expert librarian. It quietly asks itself a series of questions. Was this important? Will this information help us tomorrow? Is this connected to something we already know? Should this become a long-term memory, or should it simply disappear? While you're asleep, memories begin competing for space. The experiences that matter most become stronger. The unimportant ones gradually fade away, In other words, sleep isn't simply about resting, it's about choosing. Your brain is constantly choosing what kind of person you'll wake up as tomorrow. Now think about learning something new. Maybe you're learning a language, practicing the piano, playing football, studying mathematics, learning to drive, or simply remembering someone's name. Many people believe learning happens only while they're practicing. But that's only half the story. The practice introduces new information. Less sleep helps transform that information into lasting knowledge. Researchers have repeatedly found that people who sleep after learning often remember more than people who stay awake for the same amount of time. Why? Because while you're asleep, the brain quietly rehearses what you've learned. It's almost as if it whispers to itself. Let's go over that one more time. Neurons that fired together during the day often fire together again during sleep, strengthening the pathways between them. It's similar to walking across a grassy field. The first time, there's almost no path. Walk the same route again and again, and eventually a clear trail appears. The brain strengthens important connections in much the same way. That's why a difficult piano piece can suddenly feel smoother the next morning. That's why vocabulary words become easier to recall. That's why athletes often perform better after a good night's sleep. Your brain has been practicing while you weren't even aware of it. But memory isn't the only thing sleep organizes. It also helps organize your emotions. Have you ever noticed how a problem that felt enormous late at night somehow feels more manageable the next morning? Perhaps someone said something that upset you. Perhaps you failed at something important. Perhaps you were anxious about tomorrow. Late at night, those emotions can seem overwhelming. Then you sleep. Nothing in the outside world has changed. The problem is still there. But somehow, your mind has changed. You wake up calmer, clearer, more balanced. It's as though your brain spent the night carefully untangling a knot. Scientists believe sleep helps the brain process emotional experiences, allowing us to keep the memory of an event without carrying the full emotional intensity forever. It's one reason healthy sleep is so important for emotional resilience. And then there is another remarkable job that happens almost entirely behind the scenes. Every machine creates waste while it works. Cars produce exhaust. Factories produce pollution. Even our own bodies produce waste products every second. Your brain is no different, all day long as billions of brain cells work continuously. Tiny metabolic byproducts accumulate. If they weren't removed efficiently, they could interfere with healthy brain function over time. For many years, scientists wondered how the brain, protected inside the skull, managed this constant cleanup. Then they discovered something fascinating. During deep sleep, the spaces between brain cells become slightly larger, allowing fluid to circulate more freely through brain tissue. This fluid helps carry away waste products that build up during the day, almost like a cleaning system working the night shift while the city sleeps. Think about that for a moment. While you believe you're doing absolutely nothing, your memories are being organized. Your learning is becoming stronger. Your emotions are being processed. Your brain is carrying out essential maintenance. It's repairing, reorganizing, and preparing itself for another day of thinking, creating, solving problems, and making decisions. The next time someone tells you that sleeping is lazy, remember this. Sleeping is one of the busiest things your brain ever does. The greatest irony is that the moments when you appear to be doing the least are often the moments when your brain is accomplishing some of its most important work. Every night, without applause, without recognition, and without you even noticing, your brain performs billions of microscopic tasks that allow you to wake up a little wiser, a little stronger, and a little more prepared to face the world again. And perhaps that's the real miracle of sleep. It isn't the absence of activity, it's the hidden work that makes every waking moment possible. Now, after everything we've discovered tonight, we arrive at perhaps the most important question of all. What happens if this incredible nighttime process never gets the chance to finish? Imagine that every evening, a team of workers enters a giant library. Their job is to organize millions of books, repair damaged shelves, throw away useless papers, clean every room, and prepare the building for the next day. But every single night, someone forces them to leave after only an hour. The books remain scattered across the floor. The repairs are never completed. The garbage begins to pile up. At first, visitors might not notice anything unusual. The library still functions. People can still walk inside. But as the days pass, the disorder grows. Finding information becomes harder. Mistakes become more common. Eventually, the entire system begins to struggle. In many ways, that's what chronic sleep deprivation does to the brain. Missing 1 hour of sleep may not seem dramatic. You wake up, you drink a cup of coffee, you go to work or school, you tell yourself, I'm fine. And perhaps you are, for a little while. But your brain notices. Long before you do, one of the first things to suffer is your attention. Have you ever driven somewhere and suddenly realized you don't remember the last few minutes of the journey? Or walked into a room and completely forgotten why you came? Or read the same paragraph 3 times because your mind simply refused to absorb it? These moments aren't always caused by a lack of intelligence. Often, they're signs that the brain hasn't received the recovery time it needs. When you're well rested, your mind can focus like a flashlight, illuminating exactly what matters. When you're sleep deprived, that flashlight begins to flicker, your thoughts become scattered, distractions become stronger. Simple tasks take longer than they should, then comes memory. Earlier, we talked about how sleep strengthens what you've learned. Now imagine trying to build a house while someone removes half the bricks every night. Learning becomes slower. Remembering names becomes harder. Facts disappear almost as quickly as you read them. Students often believe the best way to prepare for an exam is to stay awake all night studying. It feels productive. After all, they're spending more hours with the material. But the brain doesn't measure learning only by hours spent awake. It also depends on what happens after learning. Without enough sleep, much of that hard work never becomes firmly stored. Sometimes the smartest decision isn't studying one more chapter. Sometimes it's going to bed, then there's decision-making. Think about the choices you make every single day. Some are small. What should I eat? Which road should I take? Should I send this message now or later? Others are much more important. How should I respond during an argument? Should I accept this opportunity? Is this risk worth taking? These decisions depend on the front part of the brain, an area deeply involved in planning, judgment, self-control, and weighing consequences. Sleep helps keep this system working efficiently. Without enough rest, impulsive choices become more likely, patience becomes harder, careful thinking gives way to quick reactions. It's almost as if the wise part of your brain begins speaking more quietly while the emotional part starts shouting. And speaking of emotions, have you ever noticed how everything seems more dramatic after a bad night's sleep? A small inconvenience suddenly feels enormous. A harmless comment sounds insulting. Tiny frustrations become impossible to ignore. You become impatient, irritable, sensitive. Not because you've suddenly become a different person, but because the brain hasn't fully restored the systems that help regulate emotions. Sleep doesn't simply recharge your body, it also helps balance your emotional world. Without it, your reactions often become stronger than the situation actually deserves. Now let's think about creativity. People often imagine creativity as a magical gift that appears out of nowhere. But creativity depends on making connections between ideas. The more efficiently your brain organizes information, the more likely it is to discover new patterns. That's one reason people frequently wake up with fresh ideas after sleeping on a difficult problem. A rested brain sees possibilities, an exhausted brain often sees only obstacles. Even your physical body feels the effects. Reaction times become slower. Coordination becomes less precise. Athletes perform better after sufficient sleep because their brains communicate more effectively with their muscles. Drivers become safer because they respond more quickly to unexpected events. Doctors, pilots, engineers, teachers, artists, every profession that depends on clear thinking benefits from a well-rested mind. In other words, Sleep doesn't just influence how you feel, it influences how you perform, how you learn, how you create, how you connect with other people, and perhaps even how you experience life itself. Here's something I find truly remarkable. We spend enormous amounts of money trying to improve ourselves. We buy expensive technology. We search for productivity hacks. We read books promising better focus, stronger memory, greater creativity, and higher performance. Yet every night, nature offers one of the most powerful tools for all of those things. Not in a bottle, not in a machine, not behind a subscription. Simply by allowing the brain enough time to do the work it was designed to do. That doesn't mean sleep is a magic cure for every problem. Life is complicated, stress exists, responsibilities exist. Many people struggle with sleep for reasons beyond their control. But understanding what sleep actually does changes the way we think about it. It's no longer just the pause between two busy days. It's an essential part of the day itself. The hours you spend asleep are not hours lost from your life. They are hours invested in the quality of every waking moment that follows. So tonight, when you close your eyes, remember this: you are not pressing the pause button on your brain. You are giving it permission to perform one of the most extraordinary acts in nature: to repair, to organize, to strengthen, to learn, to clean, to prepare. And while you drift through dreams you may never remember, billions of tiny events inside your head are quietly shaping the person who will wake up tomorrow. That, to me, is one of the most beautiful ideas in all of science. Every sunrise introduces a slightly different version of you. Not because the world changed overnight, but because your brain did.